Hi, my name is Drew Pomeroy, and welcome to this beginner-friendly series on learning RStudio and Shiny Apps I/O for athlete monitoring. In this series, we'll be exploring how to create a dynamic and user-friendly web application to monitor athletic performance, specifically focusing on baseball players. All right, so another thing I wanted to do was, be able to view the data in a table as well as in those longitudinal graphs. So I'm going to give each section pretty much a metric table as we're going through. So how would we do that? We know we've already made one for range of motion. So what we need now to do is to head down right below that to our longitudinal section. Then here we have our header, we have the 10.5 header, and then we have the drop down. So right after the drop down, I want to actually add, and let me find it here, create a table selection. So first thing I'm going to do, I'll type this in 10.5 test data table section. And in this, I don't want this to be, any certain type of new fluid row. I actually just want that text to come through. So I'm going to grab the 10.5 test metrics table. That's what I'd like to call it. And then we actually need to create the data table. So to do that, we will create a new fluid row. All right. Column. The width will equal 12. And we're going to have a table output here. And I'm just going to call this the 10.5 metrics table. Awesome. And then underneath that, I'm actually going to want to give, and let's make sure we have the correct amount of parentheses. So I throw a comma down there, and I'm actually going to give the graph section a header as well. So let's do the 10.5 graph header. And again, I want this one to match what I was doing before. So I'm just going to do a H4 10.5 test longitudinal graph. Nice. Let's go ahead and just give that a comma. Cool, then the drop down we'll see will be placed right there, and then our 10.5 graph will go. So that's what we need to do in the UI. So we've added this H4 in here, put your comma afterwards. We add the data table in, so this is going to be the table output, what we're reading in. And then we just gave the graph a header as well that matches this one here. 10.5 longitudinal graph. Awesome. Now we're going to head down the server code. So in our server code, that was range of motion. Now longitudinal metric drop downs, the 10.5. So this is our observe. That's great. We've got that. And then reactive expressions. Age group position. Okay, got it. Render gauges for assessment scores, output labels group. Longitudinal bar graphs. This is where we're going to want to be. And our 10.5 data. All right, so let's rename this 10.5 bar graph. Make a couple of spaces. What we need to do here, because this is the longitudinal bar graph, what we need is going to be a new one where we're going to render a table. So I'll go ahead and write this in. So output for 10.5 metrics table, output, that's that 10.5 metrics table there. We're going to render that table, and then required, we're going to have player data all events. So our next piece is going to be to define the 10.5 metrics table. So 10.5 metrics, call it that. And we're going to combine all our 10.5s. Just like that. Make sure you've got commas after each one of these and no comma after this one. Unexpected opening bracket. because we haven't closed it. So next, this is saying, hey, these 10.5 metrics, this is them, and those are the ones that I want to pull into my table. So we're actually going to extract and filter the data accordingly. So here's our new line here, extract and filter data. What we're going to do, we'll just call this data, doesn't matter. We're going to call all of these data. So we need player data all events, right? And then let's pipe that into a select command. We're going to select the event ID and then all of the 10.5 metrics. Okay. Then pipe that into the pivot longer. All right, let's do our columns equals. We'll do a dash. And then do that event ID. And the names to is going to be metric. And values to is going to be value. All right, so it's very, very similar to how we set up the range of motion one. And then again, we are going to pivot wider. Remember, this is what we do when we want to put the, what am I doing names from? We want to put the event IDs up in the top of our table. So this is where event ID is coming in again, event ID, and the values from is going to equal value, right? Pipe that in, and we want to, if I can spell, arrange by metric. And then the return, we want to return the data. So put that data in there. Oh, whoops, just data. Close that, and now squiggly and parenthesis, and that's going to close this out. We see that X go away. And now we should have the 10.5 bar graph underneath. Excellent. Let's go ahead and run this and see what we got. Okay, it's getting long. All right, and now you can see we have event 1 and event 2 for our 10.5 metrics table. So that'll populate for however many events that you have for each of these players, and just keep them going off to the right side. And obviously we've still got this one down here, so we are looking pretty good. Now let's, we're just gonna do that same thing. So I'll walk through the process one more time, and then I'll have you guys do the rest of it for following along. Well, yeah, that's how we get it done. All right, so let's get out here. We're going to do the same thing. We'll head back up into our UI. We'll do the same thing for the next value, which is going to be the bilateral CMJ. So as we go down, gauge scores, range of motion, here we go, lower body 10.5. And now we'll do the CMJ. We got the CMJ header here. So let's go ahead, put a couple of spaces in, and we will honestly just copy what you did for 10.5. So this is the 10.5 graph header data table, your 10.5 header. So this was your 10.5 test table. So we want all of this. So right before the drop down, we'll come down here, right after the header, we're gonna paste this in, and now we're gonna change everything. So now this is going to be your CMJ test table, data table, and CMJ graph header. So for all of these, I'm just going to call this bilateral CMJ metrics table. We're not calling the 10.5 table. We're this table is going to be just a CMJ metrics table. And then for the graph below, we're going to call this bilateral CMJ longitudinal graph, because then you come up with a drop down. So now if we did everything correct, that should be all done. Looks like we should be all good. Let's head down to our server code. Longitudinal bar graphs. There's our 10.5. And we're gonna do the same thing. So all the way down here to return data. And then go to bilateral CMJ. Let's just paste this in. First thing I'm going to do is just change this to that to graph so I know the difference. And this is going to be the output for the CMJ metrics table. We're going to define the CMJ metrics table. And this is going to be for CMJ. So won't be 10.5. Remember we called this one CMJ earlier. Take that T out of there, put it all events. We do not want to call this 10.5 metrics. We just want to call this CMJ metrics. And then I've got here, I need to identify all the CMJ metrics that I want to include in this section. So that's going to be, again, you can always use col names if you go all the way to the top. Col names to get your column names. Be able to paste them in. I've already written this out, so should be good to go there. Nice, and then return data. This still says 10.5 metrics, so we'll change that to CMJ metrics. I think that's the only one we need to update in there because we're all going back to the same data here. Nice, let's go run the UI. Cool, and if we are successful, we will see that we're actually pulling in the correct. So if we want to check flight time, let's just change this guy to flight time, 0.54 and 3.54. So as an initial test, that's looking pretty good. All of these are sectioned out really nicely, and then we've got our headers and stuff. So I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna update the other ones as well, and now you've got the structure of it, so you could do that yourself. I think pretty easy. Just remember to put in the correct column headers when you're going in. From here, you know, we'll do a couple other really cool things with this, but we've got a really nice functional Shiny app now. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to stay updated on the next video, and I'll see you in the next one.